Greetings, friends. My name is Pavel Stelmach, and I'm glad to present for you the new episode of our daily wrap-up series. Today, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is going to the United States of America. For the first time since February the 24th, Zelenskyy left the territory of Ukraine. All this time, he was with the people of Ukraine and our army. He didn't leave Kyiv in the first days of the full-scale offensive, although the Russians hoped for it and even tried several times to talk about the fact that the daily addresses were recorded in advance or somewhere in the studio on a painted background. But the fabrications of the Russians were once again shattered by video evidence.
Всім добрий вечір. Лідер фракції тут.
Good evening, everyone. The faction leader is here, the head of the president's office is here, Prime Minister Shmyhal is here, Podolyak is here, the president is here. We are all here. Our military is here, citizens are here. We are all here defending our independence, our state, and it will continue to be so. Glory to our defenders. Glory to Ukraine.
Despite all possible dangers, our president remained with the people. He was not afraid to come to liberated Kherson already 3 days after its recapture. Just yesterday, Zelenskyy was in Bakhmut, a city that the Russians are trying to capture for 6 months already, and the city where the biggest battles are currently taking place. However, today he went overseas, and if such a decision was made, fateful decisions will indeed be made there.
On my way to the US to strengthen resilience and defense capabilities of Ukraine. In particular, the President of the United States and I will discuss cooperation between Ukraine and the USA. I will also have a speech at the Congress and a number of bilateral meetings.
On the eve of the official meetings, the American and Ukrainian mass media begin to talk about possible agreements. In particular, it is noted that Zelenskyy will ask again for ATACMS missiles and Grey Eagle and Reaper drones during a speech in Congress. Zelenskyy will thank lawmakers for the billions of dollars in military aid they have provided, and will also justify why even more funding is needed. However, there is already official information from the White House. Volodymyr Zelenskyy will visit the White House, where he will meet with Joe Biden, key members of his team, address the press with a briefing, and also address the US Congress. The visit was agreed between Zelenskyy and Biden during a telephone conversation on December 11th. The American president proposed 2 dates, December 14th and 21st. The visit was finally confirmed by the Ukrainian side only on Sunday. The presidents of Ukraine and the United States will discuss in-depth strategic planning for future actions on the battlefield, training opportunities that the United States and our allies will continue to provide to Ukraine, sanctions and export controls assistance in the economic and energy sectors, and humanitarian assistance. Biden will announce a new measure pack of nearly $2 billion in security assistance for Ukraine, which will include Patriot air defense systems, as well as NASAMS and Hawk air defense systems, Stinger manpads, and anti-UAV equipment. During Zelenskyy's visit, he will be talking with the US Congress regarding the additional financing package for Ukraine for 2023 in the amount of $40 billion. With its support, Congress wants to send a message to Putin and the world that America will stand by Ukraine as long as it takes.
The Biden administration decided that now is a good time to give the Patriots under this pretext to convince Congress, primarily Republican leaders and the establishment, which is still in the traditional Republican hawkish positions towards Russia, and support Ukraine, and convince them now to allocate additional assistance in parallel with supply of Patriots and deliver a decisive and final fight to Putin. I think this will be the real last fight, because the Patriots are the end of everything. The Patriots led to the defeat of Iraq.
Among other things, it is likely that Volodymyr Zelenskyy will hand over to the Americans the Ukrainian flag that he received from our military during a trip to Bakhmut. As the president himself said in the address, the soldiers were given our flag and asked to hand it over those whose decisions are very important for Ukraine, for all our soldiers. Therefore, we are all waiting for the necessary support. The Ministry of Justice of Russia filed a lawsuit for the liquidation of the Moscow Helsinki Group, the oldest human rights organization in Russia. The reason was the violations discovered, as it is claimed, during an extraordinary inspection of the organization conducted at the request of the prosecutor's office. I would like to remind you that last December, the Supreme Court of Russia liquidated another human rights organization, Memorial, which already in 2022, together with the Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties and the Belarusian activists, received the Nobel Peace Prize this year.
має шанс.
Humanity has a chance to overcome global crisis and embark on a new way of understanding the world. It's time to take responsibility. We don't know how much time we have, and since this is a Nobel Peace Prize in a time of war, I afford addressing people in different countries of the world with a call for solidarity. You don't have to be Ukrainian to support Ukraine, you just have to be human.
I remind you that Russia's war against Ukraine is continuously marked by serious violations of international humanitarian law and gross violations of human rights law. Russia conducts a policy of repression and war crimes, including deployment of murderers and criminals to fight in Ukraine. All Ukraine's liberated territories show the results of Russia's genocidal tactics: scorched earth, mass graves of unidentified civilian population, torture chambers, forcible deportation of children, etc. And I think that the international community must consolidate its efforts to bring Russia to account, including through the mechanisms of the UN International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court. We also call for the establishment of the special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine to bring Russian political and military leadership to accountability for the crime of aggression.
С каждым месяцем этой войны
There is no way out of this war as some kind of compromise where Putin was left in exchange for I don't know for what. For the withdrawal of troops from Ukraine, for monetary reparation, for the fact that he will issue dummy scapegoats and say that they are guilty, but he doesn't. It's too late for all this, in my opinion. He mounted a tiger. You can ride a tiger, you cannot get off it. It will eat you right away. Putin is now in such a position that in order for him to face a court, there must be an internal conspiracy of his entourage, which will not only kill him, but arrest him, and he will be handed over alive to some kind of tribunal. And a person in such a position as Putin, it is much more difficult to arrest him alive than to kill him.
But Russia's problem is not only Putin. It is the entire political leadership of the country. After all, a week ago, Russia's lower house of parliament has adopted a bill that would provide immunity for certain crimes committed in the occupied areas of Ukraine, in violation of Russia's international legal obligations, Human Rights Watch said. Moreover, the bill was adopted unanimously. It mandates dropping criminal cases and overturning convictions against those who committed crimes prior to September 30th, while acting in the interests of the Russian Federation in Russia-occupied areas of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions. These crimes would presumably include war crimes and grave human rights abuses, and would cover Russian officials and their proxies. The bill also violates Article 2 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which guarantees a remedy to anyone whose rights have been violated, including through the courts. Russia is persistently unwilling to prosecute war crimes and other violations of international law committed by its forces, and this may de facto mean permission for extrajudicial executions and arrests, placing the Ukrainian civilian population outside of any legal framework. That concludes our today's video. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos. Subscribe to UATV English and goodbye.